Here's how I use Ableton and Touchdesigner to play audio and video at the same time in a spontaneous, fun way on stage. Um, let's say simple version, you want audio and video at the same time. Simple version in Ableton, you play an arrangement view, this view, and you just play a song back. Maybe you loop it somewhere, but you just play a song back, and when it's done, it's done. And you put a video track in there, and then you do view video window, and it will show up something like this. And you might have to drag it to another projector, but when you press play on the song, the video will play, and that's cool. And when all my fun stuff is not working, I have that as backup, and it works fine. It's actually pretty stable and everything. And if you want stability, you might want to stick with that. But if you want more fun, more options, stuff like that, then I've found that session view is much more fun. And session view, the tracks are as rows, and these are not all separate tracks. They're color coded, so these three are the first track. So maybe I have like 15 or 20 in here. And the columns are individual instruments. If you're a DJ, you just maybe have 1 or 2 or 3 tracks. One has one song, one has another song, and third maybe has an a cappella voice, and you mix between them, and that's cool. But I like all the different individual elements to be at my fingertips to turn on. And I use this this bottom left-hand corner. You can see this launchpad to do that, the Novation Mini launchpad, and that works great. But let's say you want video at the same time. So if I want to play it, let's say, well, let me go back. Right here, I've got all my waveforms. They're just regular things you've seen before. Here's kick, and you just scroll over. Here's all the different instruments. And then when we get to here, these are all the instruments I can perform live right now, and I'll get to those. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that I'll get to, but let's say that when I want this kick to start, I also want a video to play on the screen. That idea of having one track trigger another track, you'd have to do it on the launchpad by having them next to each other, and you could press them at the same time. That could work. But what's easier for this, since you're just, when you got this many tracks, you can't do that, is I have a remote script called ClyphX, ClyphX, that I use that puts a little bit of code in every track that I want that says, once this plays, do some other stuff. In this case, it says play some video, cue some lights, and cue some buttons, which I'll get to in a second. So when I start this, I'm going to cue it, I'm going to launch it here, and when it starts, it should play the video as well. Great, it does. And I'm going to EQ this down a little bit. You can hear it, but it's not over my voice. It did a couple things. It started a video. That's good. It also it showed these buttons in this list, and I'll explain those in a second. Touchdesigner has this thing called TDableton that my friend Ivan made. It's genius. It gets all the data that you want out of Ableton and brings it into Touchdesigner for you to use to affect a video. So right here you can see that the tempo is here, and if I change this here, it will change it. Good. In real time, and it's got the beats and things like that, and that it's playing. That's kind of the top level stuff, but there's much more that can be done with it. For instance, over here, I've just got 16 knobs, just a regular rack. If I go in here, you can see that these are lined up, and if I turn this, it will turn that, and that's great. And what's a simple version is, alright, I've got this white square, and I can make it disappear with this fader, and that's great. And it's not on the screen right now because it's just an example. But I'm busy. I'm not going to be grabbing my mouse during the show and going like this. That's not fun. I can tie it to this knob. Simple as this. And now, as I turn this knob, it changes the opacity of that thing. And if this knob is mapped to one of my knobs on my keyboard, then I'm just using my keyboard. And let's say I have my knob on my keyboard affecting some audio, and I want it to be tied to this square getting brighter, I can do that. And that's fun. So that gets me to the buttons. I have a number of buttons on this keyboard, this controller, knobs, faders, buttons, drum pads out underneath this Novation Launchpad you can't see, mod wheel, etc. No big deal. And each of those are what I want to use. I don't want to use the mouse, and I really don't want to use the Launchpad too much because there's not that many, since I have so many tracks and so many things to do. I'm doing a lot of searching on here, and that's not fun. But with ClyphX and with Touchdesigner, I can make the buttons dynamic so that depending on what's playing, those buttons do different things. So I'm going to move over to my keyboard. So I've got this kick playing. And, you know, I could bring in the snare and the hi-hats and stuff, right? Because they're right next to it, so I'll just do that. Great. But I also want to play this percussion, this performance percussion, and because I've used some ClyphX, I just have to press B1, and it's gonna start this. So I just recorded that, and I also have a guitar that has a guitar synth on it. That's this. It's a different pickup. So I'm sending MIDI data the same way. I'm going to control a synth this way, and I just have to press a button on. You can see in the bottom left-hand corner there's a soft step there. That's just some buttons on my feet. And I'm going to press one of those to make sure my bass synth is working. So I just recorded that. Record button is also on my feet. All right. So that's some fun stuff that ClyphX can do. Here's another one, is that you can see on the top right corner SS2L. It says it's going to bring me to the verse of this song, which means it has a lot of I can put a lot of arrangement things at the same time, happening at the same time with a push of one button. So let's do that. There I go. You can hear a lot of things changing at the same time while I'm not touching anything. And it brings me to the next section. Those are both really good things that Ableton can do. And let's say you just have a video playing back with a song, and you've already bounced that video out. You made it in some other program, or maybe in this one, in Touchdesigner. You bounced it out. You've got a .mov file or a .mp4. And you could just like sort of in Touchdesigner just mess with it in any number of different ways. Let's say I want to change the color of this thing. I'm going to add a node in. Some pretty normal stuff. Let's just change the color. He's changing. That's great. You could automate that in any number of different ways, map it to a fader, whatever. That's cool. What I find much more interesting is when video is generated in Touchdesigner, which this one is, which is why, even though nothing's playing right now audio-wise, this guy's still going. He doesn't stop. These are all the scenes I have that are not just video playing back. They are generated right now live. So this one's called I'm Obnoxious. I'm going to dive in there. And what you can see is that I've got basically all those knobs I was showing you in here. They do things. So if I turn these, they're going to affect how this guy works. And let's say I'll turn this on. It's automated and it's doing a bunch of things. If I turn these knobs, he's going to get all crazy. Okay, that's crazy. That's not very good. You can't really see much happening anymore. But luckily, just like Ableton, I've got training wheels here. I'm going to press this. It'll all go back to normal. And here's another thing is, so these are knobs. That's one way to affect things. There's also just like playing, it can take MIDI notes. And in this case, when I play some MIDI notes on the keyboard here, he is going to freeze. Let's see if that works. Gets bigger and he slows down. This should work now. So when I press this, he slows down and gets bigger. There we go. He slows down and gets bigger. Cool. So that's the fun of generating video. There's just a ton of stuff you can do. Because I'm mixing songs together, I need to have two different videos at the same time, which is why I've got PB and top here. So I can have, let's say, this one playing here, and then I'm going to play this one here, and it's going to show up down here, and those two are going to mix together. So these two are blending now on top of each other. And I can choose which way they blend. Right now, let's see. That's just another knob in here. Final operation is going to decide which way they blend. And we can see what these are called. Here's overlay, outside luminance, multiply. So you can decide how they blend together, and that's nice. Besides that, the only other thing I want to mention right now is that you'll see that I am here as an overlay on everything. I can turn this off and I'm gone. This is all I see when I perform. This is on the projector, and these two things are all I see, and Ableton is out. Oops. Ableton is out to here, basically. So I get a lot more space, but for this description, this is all so I've got this overlay that I can use, and in Touchdesigner, if you've got a reasonable GPU, you can remove the background, so I'm not in front of a green screen or anything. Here is what my let's see. Here is what my office looks like, and you can see me here, and that's cool, but it also can remove the background, and it's not perfect, but it is better. So that's cool, and here's another one. Let's see if I can make this work. This is what I just made the other day. So every time I play a note, he moves to his next position. Let's keep him on that position because also the audio, the volume, a waveform can affect the video as well. So I'm going to get him to speak by just playing some audio. Let's see if I can make that work.
Technologic.
Good. I know he looks crazy right now. His tongue's sticking out, etc. But you get the idea. So there's a lot of possibilities there for a lot of different things. And I guess that's kind of the gist of it. And now maybe I'll just sort of mix a few songs together and see if... you know what? I'm going to do that in a different video. So that's all. Bye.